Hey, Bob here. Welcome back to the show, episode 376. Today, I want to present a new definition of success when it comes to content. I think we live in a world today where we have a very narrow definition of success. And so a successful piece of content is one that gets engagement. Gets likes, gets comments, gets shares, results in follows, right? When we judge the success of a piece of content, I argue we're only looking at it through way too narrow a lens of focus and a short-term time horizon. And I think this is a big problem for a lot of you because if you've been following us, you're learning a new way to approach the topic of content. Hopefully, you're learning how to be more transformational in your approach to creating content. And here's what I know to be true. Anytime you're learning a new skill or a new way of doing things, when you first begin to do it, you're not going to be great at it. And when we start to do things a different way, it also can be very scary. It can be uncertain, right? Transformational content requires a much higher level of skill, of vulnerability. It requires more courage because you're putting yourself out there. You're not just hiding behind your company and your products. You're really starting to learn what it means to be authentic and relatable in content. And so what I see happening a lot is we'll teach our clients how to do this new way of creating content, and they'll immediately start getting discouraged and they'll stop because they're not seeing the engagement that they thought they should be. And this just came up. I had a client of mine just last week, was coaching her inside of our Love, Serve, Grow program. And she shared this post with me. And she said, she goes, I'm not sure if this is working for me. And she said, I'm wondering if it's ever okay to take a post down. And so I looked at this particular post. I pulled it up on the screen right on Zoom. We're looking at it together. And what I saw was this beautifully executed piece of transformational content. It was her just sharing a very vulnerable, authentic part of her journey and her story about how she used to struggle with anxiety and a lack of self-worth. Talked about how she was always comparing herself to other people, never thinking she was good enough, and just shared how being a part of a community of supportive women had helped her start to see herself differently. And it was just really well executed. It had a beautiful image of her with family. And so I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, well, why is she asking this question? Why is she struggling with this? And then I realized why. I looked and I saw 3 likes. And so I asked her, I said, is the reason you're asking this question because of that right there? And it had been a day. And she said, yes. And I said, well, what do you think that means? And she goes, well, I just assumed that meant I did something wrong. And this is my problem. We need to come up with a new way to measure successful content. It is not just determined by how many people like it and comment and share. Now, listen, are those measures of success? Yes, that's part of the equation. But today, I want to present to you 4 completely different things to take into consideration to help you start to look at the content that you're creating through a new lens. So let me just kind of walk you through the 4 things that I want to present to you. Here's the first one. When you're stretching yourself, and for a lot of you, content is something that's really, it's getting you out of your comfort zone. And so what I want you to recognize is when you learn how to really start putting yourself out there in more of an authentic way, that's what transformational content really is. Doing things like going live, sharing more of your story, being open and vulnerable about the challenges you face, like that could be a really scary thing. But what I want you to recognize is this, is every time you're willing to do it, it helps you grow. See, this is ultimately what we teach with Love, Serve, Grow. If you show up from a place of love, and that gives you the courage to put yourself out there and serve. And that's what transformational content is. It's an act of service. It's you posting not just as a way to try to make a sale, but really with an attempt to try to help and connect with other people. And every single time you show up from a place of service, you grow. Every act of service, no matter how small, affirms your sense of self-worth. It helps you start to see yourself differently. And so the more that we do this, we grow and become better. And here's the thing about success. You don't pursue success. You attract it to you by the person you become. Your business is a personal transformation program with a compensation plan. And so if every single time we do this, if we maintain the right lens of focus, not just defining it by did it get the results? Because that's the thing, is if you're only measuring success by the results and the results don't come, here's what you'll determine. Well, the post didn't have any value. But you'll take it a step further. It's not just that the post didn't have any value, it's that you don't have value. See, we attach ourselves to the lack of the results in the beginning. And for most of you, you're not going to see the big visible engagement and results when you're just starting out. But if we start to see that post through the lens of love, which means that we don't define ourselves by how many likes, comments, or shares, which, by the way, you'll never be able to control. You'll never be able to control that because you are at the mercy of the platform and the algorithm. But if we begin to see that post through the lens of love, and we see every single act of service as being worthy just because we were willing to extend ourselves and help, we grow. And we start to attract to us the results that we want. See, the results that you want come as a byproduct of loving and serving and growing. So even if you didn't get a single like, if you pushed yourself and you stretched past your comfort zone and you put yourself out there and you did something you never did and you grew, is there value there? I argue absolutely. That's the first thing to take into consideration. Here's the second. We have to understand that you can't measure the impact of a post by just the engagement. See, we teach every single post you make on social media is an opportunity for two things to happen: impacting the life of someone else and helping you grow. Now, impact is not just measured by engagement, right? I'll never forget this. When I first started going live, I can remember, and this happened more than a handful of times, I would run into people that I hadn't seen in a while. And I can remember one friend in particular. I ran into him. We were out hanging out with some friends, grabbing some dinner. And I remember the first thing he said to me, he goes, "Hey, thank you so much for doing your videos. They've really been helping me a lot." Now, this was like a weird thing to hear because he's not in network marketing, had nothing to do with it. I had no idea he had ever watched a single video of mine. I'd never seen him on a video, never saw him like, comment, never engaged, ever. But he started to go on to share with me. He's like, "I know I don't do what you do, but so many of the things that you talk about apply to my life. And it's actually helped me become a better boss to my employees." And I remember thinking, I'm like, wow, like how crazy is that? Especially somebody that I didn't even know was watching. And here's what I want you to realize is impact is not just measured by engagement. See, there's something called an impression. An impression is if somebody sees your content. And if you were to look at the impressions of your posts, they are way bigger than just the engagement, usually a factor of 10x more. And an impression is somebody that is at least aware, has seen, has consumed that piece of content. Now, how much, we don't know. But I'm telling you, the impact that you are making in people's lives goes so far beyond just the likes, the comments, and the shares. And you'll start to realize this when you start being more proactive about reaching out and messaging and connecting with people. And if you're creating content, people will start referencing the content. "Hey, I read your post the other day. It was really good." Now, the first thought that you'll think is, well, you could have told me. Right? Like, you just hitting like doesn't take a lot, right? But the point is the impact of the post goes beyond than just the engagement. So that's the second thing I want you to think about. Here's the third thing. I think of content two ways. I think of it as engagement and awareness. And so let's go back to this post, this client of ours who shared this beautiful message. What I helped her understand is I said, listen, the value of this goes far beyond the 24 hours after you've posted it. Because now that piece of content lives on your profile. And I asked her, I said, what I want you to imagine that your ideal person for your business, right? A woman that is just like you, struggling with the same things, struggling with self-worth, comparing herself to other people, having anxiety, not thinking she could do anything bigger in her life. I want you to imagine her coming to your profile and scrolling through your feed and seeing that post and reading it. I said, would she get value out of that? She said, absolutely. I go, how? She goes, well, she would feel seen and heard and understood. And I believe that she would feel encouraged knowing that there was someone else out there that went through what she's going through. And I said, exactly. Now, I said, that woman may not ever like, comment, or share that post, but did it serve a purpose? See, transformational content is aligned with your bigger purpose in your business and in your life, which is not just to make a sale or hit a rank, but it's actually to impact and transform the lives of other people. And so think of that. Like every piece of content, you are painting the picture of who you are and what's most important to you. And when I look at most network marketers and social sellers feeds, it's just a scripted sales pitch for what they do. Or it's the highlight reel of their life, trying to paint this picture perfect version of who they are and what they do, never really making a real connection with people. I said that post was important, and you might not realize why yet. And that leads me to the fourth and the final thing that I want to put on your radar. I want you to realize that every piece of content that you create is part of the legacy that you leave this world. See, the legacy of your life is made up of all the small and at the time, seemingly insignificant acts of service that you perform over your lifetime. It's the hello to somebody that was having a bad day. It's the small compliment to somebody that was feeling down, that you just lifted them up. All of these things leave a part of your legacy. It's how you treat your family and friends and the people that don't really matter, right? The little things, but content is a piece of this. Every piece of content is part of your legacy. See, we are experiencing something we've never experienced before as a society. We are the first generation that has the ability to document our lives through social media and content. You know, when I think back to my mother's parents, I never met them. They were dead before I was born. And I never got to know them. I don't know, I've heard stories about them, but I don't know who they are. I don't know what they stood for. I don't know what they believe. They didn't pass any of their life lessons on to me. And when I think of my life today and the things that I do, and I think of my two boys, my boys are 6 and 3 right now. Now I'm an old dad. I'll be 50 this year. And so if my boys are anything like me, which I hope they get on it a little younger than I did, but there's a good chance I may never really know my boys' children, and that's okay. It is what it is. I mean, hopefully I'll meet them, but they're most likely not going to really know me the way they do. And so here's the thing that's incredibly inspiring to me. And I'm very rooted in this every day. And I understand, man, this is a privilege to do what I do, to be able to create content, to be able to the fact that there's even one other person out there that cares enough to listen to what I have to say, that is a great privilege. And it's also a responsibility. But here's what I think. Someday my boys' children will be consuming this content. I hope they will. But they will get to know me through my podcasts. They'll get to watch my lives and my YouTube videos. They may even be watching this video. And they may be hearing me talking about them. And I'm going to get a chance to share the things that I've learned in my life that I can pass down on to future generations to truly make an impact in their lives. My question to you is this. What's that worth? What's that worth? That to me is worth more than any sale I'll ever make in my lifetime. Does that have value? To me, that's the ultimate value. And my question to you is this: are you taking advantage of this opportunity? Think about that. See, these to me, when I think of successful content, this is my lens. My lens is much wider than most. I have a definition of success that's different. And at the end of the day, this is what we're teaching you in everything that you do. If your definition of success is tied specifically just to the results, it is a definition that will fail you 10 out of 10 times. Look, I want to encourage you to start looking at content differently. Because if we can change the way that we look at the things that we do, we change the way we feel about doing them. And that's a big part of Love, Serve, Grow. Like if you don't love what you do every day, you're not going to be successful long-term. And content's part of it. If content is a chore, if it's something that you hate to do, if it feels forced, it's because you're looking at it through the wrong lens. See it through the bigger picture, align it with your greater purpose, and find a new sense of meaning in every single thing that you do, and watch what that does for your business. So that's my message to you today. I implore you to start looking at content differently. See that wider picture, that bigger picture of really what it could represent in your business and in your life. So as always, thanks so much for being here. I love and appreciate all of you. I'll see you soon on the next episode. Take care.